Hello, Canucks fans. Welcome back to another episode of Canucks Conversation, brought to you by Bet365. We're coming to you from the Pacific Toyota Dealer Studios. Visit shoptoyota.ca or visit your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. My name is David Quadrelli. Get my tabs arranged here. My apologies for those on the, those on the live show. Had to get it all ready to go because part of what I had to do, Harm, was pull up this beautiful article over at The Athletic by none other than Harmon Dial. And you were so fired up about it that it's basically the topic of today's show. The title of the article: Can the Vancouver Canucks realistically tank for Gavin McKenna? Here's what it would take. Now, I know you're excited. I know you're excited to get to it, but I think we save that for later in the show. We'll start with last night's game and then get to
Sure.
it. Is that fair?
Yeah, fair. I'm just gonna be giddy waiting in anticipation of the tank talk. I legit can't wait.
Yeah, like the rest of us. What am I missing here? Um, Someone in the chat said Canucks Convo had Twitter beef yesterday. I don't know what that's about.
Oh, I think it's a joke about you and I going back and forth about Askarov and Wallstead.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay. I was very confused. Okay, well I have that saved for anyone else, so I'll get to that later. That's the least of our concerns right now, but we'll get to that later. I got some stuff. I got some stuff for you, Harm. I got some stuff to talk about. Speaking of our chat, if you want to make sure your question or comment gets in the show, hit us with a super chat. Proceeds from our super chat go to the BC Mental Health Foundation, changing the face of mental health and addiction by supporting breakthroughs in care, public understanding, research, and knowledge exchange. Okay, so the Vancouver Canucks play in Colorado. We kind of had the joke of like, oh, it would be the most Canucks thing ever to hand Colorado their first loss on home ice, or first regulation loss on home ice. If I'm not mistaken, the Avs only overtime, or no, they've lost a bunch in overtime, and one of them came against the Canucks. But anyways, what I'm getting at is we kind of said like, oh, wouldn't it be crazy? Wouldn't it be the most Canucks thing ever for this team that we're talking in the terms of a rebuild, of a tank, all that sort of stuff? Wouldn't it be funny if they beat the Avs? And it would have been. And Linus Karlsson understood the assignment because he gets the scoring started. It was weird. That first period, the Canucks were so good at getting behind the Avs defense. They were looking for that stretch pass, and it was there. Like they were stretch passing out of their own end and behind the Avs defense. Obviously, a team like Colorado is going to make the adjustment pretty quick, and that's what they did. But to start the game, the Canucks were looking for that stretch pass, and it was there. Linus Karlsson kind of benefits from it. It was a really good play in the neutral zone by Aatu Ratu to get the puck to Arshdeep Bains. He makes a beautiful pass to Karlsson, but again, that kind of goes to the point of like Karlsson was in behind the defense, and then he makes a nifty move to the backhand, a confident move to the backhand for Linus Karlsson. He's rewarded with a third period promotion. I think he's the most positive takeaway from this game. Scores the goal, has a really strong game, gets a promotion to the first line, or on Elias Pettersson's line in the third period there. And also worth mentioning that Pettersson line had the McKinnon matchup. So Karlsson gets that promotion later in the game, hoping that that's something that's going to stick here.
Yeah, definitely. He's earned that opportunity again. As of last week, he was below the 10-minute per game mark for the season. And this was by far his season high, 1649 of ice time. Single-handedly got him over the 10-minute per game mark as an average for the season. And it's what I was saying last week, where he's producing offense in limited minutes, and not just the goals, but he's creating shots and high danger chances at a prolific rate, where again, sometimes you'll have bottom six players that are producing well in, let's say, a 25 game sample, but they're riding a 25% shooting clip. And when you promote them up the lineup, then they slow down, right? Aatu Ratu, for example, he had that heater down the stretch toward the tail end of last season. But the point I made was he was shooting well over 20%. And that's why going into this season, I wasn't as optimistic about him taking off offensively this season, because I thought a lot of that was just he got hot finishing at the right time. Same thing with Vasily Podkolzin in his rookie year, when he finished with 14 goals as a rookie, and that ended up being his high watermark. In Karlsson's case, I'm not saying he has a ton of upside as a goal scorer, but there seems to be a sustainability to the way that he's been manufacturing offense and chances. And I think we definitely saw hints of that in the Colorado game. You saw in the empty net situation when the Canucks were trailing by a pair, 6-on-5, just little sequences around the front of the net where he's so good in high traffic spots. There was
Yes.
a loose puck that came out. Colorado was going to be first to get it for the clearance, but then you saw Carlson, who's so heavy on his stick, able to lift the stick of the Colorado player. The Canucks pounce on the loose puck, and it immediately led to a jam play, kind of scramble chaos sequence. I think he's earned a consistent top 9 opportunity. I'm not saying he's necessarily the answer on Pettersson's line.
Yeah.
But when you look at this Canucks team and how little talent it has, plus you're missing some bodies right now, I absolutely think he deserves legit middle 6 usage for an extended period of time just to see what you have.
You'd have him on the first line though, right? Like that's what I'm saying is I want him to get that.
But even if the point being, even if it doesn't click with Pettersson, don't just immediately relegate him back to the 4th line.
Sure. Okay.
Give him at least 13, 14, 15 minutes per game for the rest of the season. Let's see what you have in this guy. Who else on this Canucks team do you look at and say, oh, if we elevated him and gave him a lot more minutes, he might pop production wise, right?
Yep.
Sure. I think you'd include Achi in that conversation, maybe Jonathan Lecker-Mackey in the second half, although I didn't think he was all that impressive through the first 2 periods. But you're not throwing Archie Baines into that conversation. You're not throwing Max Sasson into that conversation.
Sure.
And you know that if you end up selling within the next month or 2, some of your players like Sherwood, Kane, maybe even a guy that has term like a Connor Garland, you're going to have lineup opportunities. And I think Carlson's at the stage where you got to figure out what exactly he is. He's 26 years old. He's not exactly young. Just give the guy some leash, some rope. He's deserved it.
No disagreement there. Also love that you talked your shit on Twitter. As soon as it happened, I love that you bumped the clip. That was great. That was really, really nice to see the clip of you telling everybody that Linus Karlsson deserved more of a shot. So wanted to make sure I mentioned that. That was great. I love that. All right. Anything from the game other than Hughes? I'm saving the Hughes stuff for the end. Is there anything you wanted to get into from the game? Nate McKinnon's so good. Like, it's just tilts the ice in his team's favor every time he's out there. The only Canuck to hold the chances even with McKinnon in that game was Elias Pettersson. Everyone else got caved, but that's not really a crazy stat because McKinnon caves everybody. But good for Elias Pettersson. Thought he was fine in that game.
Yeah, through the final 40 minutes, I thought first period the Canucks hung around better than expected, and you were thinking, okay, maybe they're going to keep this game close for the entire duration. But then the second period happened, and you could just tell that Colorado flipped a switch. And this is what they do, right? They're know when to turn it on. And when they turn it on, it is one of the most terrifying things in the NHL. Now, it was interesting that, especially in the second period, it felt like Colorado would just absolutely hem the Canucks in, create 3 or 4 quality chances over a stretch of 3 or 4 minutes where they're just dominating the Canucks territorially in their end. But then Kevin Lankinen would stand on his head a little bit, or the Avs might miss the net on a screaming grade A chance. And then the Canucks would actually get legit counter opportunities on the rush, right? It'd be like 3-4 minutes. The Canucks are just defending, gassed on the ropes the entire time. And then as soon as the Canucks regain possession, there's actually an opportunity to counter on an odd man rush. And that's where Colorado's goaltenders, Wedgwood obviously left the game in the middle. Blackwood came in. I thought they were pretty sturdy and held them in it, but let's make no mistake. When Adam Foote is talking about we were right there, I don't really buy that considering the shot. The Canucks had 13 shots through the late stages of the second period. It was only towards the end of the game when score effects help the Canucks where, all right, last 5 minutes, you're pushing, you're pulling your goalie. Now you're going to rack up some shots and it's going to make things look closer. But the second period, the Avs just completely separated, as they've done to most teams in the NHL.
Did you see on the broadcast last night when Shorty pulled up the comparison to the 2011 Canucks of like most goals for, least goals against? Do you remember? Did you catch that on the broadcast?
I think I missed it.
Well, yeah, that was it. Was he brought up teams that have led the league in most goals for and least goals against, and apparently I thought it would have happened more, but it didn't. Really, it just shows truly dominant teams, and of course, the 2011 Canucks are in that category. Grim Studio brought it up. He said it's like how the 2010 through 12 Canucks were. Just sit back, then flip a switch and win the game by default. Colorado is legit. Yeah, they're absolutely legit. We knew they were going to be a really tough test in that game. Also didn't have their fastball. Like, I haven't watched a ton of Colorado games this year, but that's the worst one I've seen from them for sure. I've never seen them get stretch passes against them like that and teams in behind their defense like that.
Well, a team like that too, it's an 82 game season, so sometimes they're going to do just enough to beat a team rather than
and I think
all out every game.
They also probably took their foot off the gas a little bit.
Well, the first period, right?
Yeah.
They probably saw Canucks at 30th place in the NHL.
Yeah.
It's hard to get up for a game like that if you're Colorado.
And you know what's harder, Harm? Is like going in with that mindset, getting the first goal scored against you, and then being like, all right, guys, we got to turn it on. Like, that's a true mark of a really great team that's just like, okay, like, if Colorado lost that game last night, it's not the end of their season, but they chose not to. They were just like, okay, whatever, we're going to have to turn it on. Let's go do what we have to do to win.
We're going to have to try.
Just get it done. Yeah, we're going to have to try. And we're going to have to get it done. And not to take anything away from the Canucks players, because honestly, I really did like the effort from most of the Canucks last night. And again, when you talk about a team that isn't the best on paper, isn't very highly thought of, right? The worst thing is when they give up, right? Or when it's just like low effort. Like, at least they're trying. At least they're trying. And we're not trying to... Yeah. Oh, never mind. He's talking about Foot. Someone in the chat said, stop gaslighting us. And that's all I read. So I thought he was talking about what I was saying. But he was responding to Adam Foot's post-game comments about we were right there. What's the we were right there
counter
on the season? Like, how many games, right? Take how many games the Canucks have played. How many times have we heard we were right there?
It's got to be at least 5 losses.
Yeah. At least 5.
At least.
I'd maybe have it closer to 10. So someone will have to go back and find that. Yeah. And it's just that simple. That's the other one. He likes to say it's just that simple sometimes. Anyways, moving past that. Yeah, 2011 Canucks were dominant. The Avs this year are dominant. No real surprises last night. Do you want to talk about Quinn Hughes now, or did you have something else from the game?
Yeah, let's talk about Quinn.
Okay. I'm of the opinion that but I give some credence to the idea that, hey, he's playing 30 minutes. Like, he's on a bad team. He's, he wants to do more. He hates losing. Like, I get that. But I also understand the camp of people who are like, you can't have this kind of body language. And Jacob, we can play the clip. For those on the podcast, Bick Nazar tweeted it out. Bick Nazar, Sportsnet 650. He tweeted it out. Just kind of zeroing in on Quinn. Again, a teammate makes a bad pass. I think it was David Kampf. And Quinn doesn't really try to get back. It looked JT Miller-esque, straight-legged. Not a great look. Not a great look for a captain. I understand all the people that are saying, like, this is unacceptable. Like, you can't do this. And I probably lean closer to that side more than anything else. But I also understand on the other end of it where it's just like, look, the guy's tired. He's playing a ridiculous amount of hockey. He's on a bad team.
They've wasted his early 20s.
They've wasted his early 20s. Oh, whatever reason you want to give of why Quinn would be frustrated, I get it. But at the end of the day, I lean more toward the side that says you can't do that. Like, you can't act like that as a captain. And Mauve in the chat said, if you hate losing, you can't play like that. It leads to more losing than winning. And again, we bring up JT Miller. There's this segment of fans that I was arguing with one in the Canucks Army comment section today who was saying, wow, media running Quinn out of town just like they ran JT out of town. Why is it such a problem to hate losing? First of all, it's not a Vancouver market thing. JT pulled this straight-legged crap once in New York so far, and he was flamed. It was a national story the next day, and it wasn't Vancouver media doing that. Sean Avery posted a video where he was losing his mind at the captain of the New York Rangers doing what JT did in that instance. If anything, the Vancouver media, the Canucks fan base, whoever you're pinning the blame on, they put up with it more than the Rangers did. The Rangers aren't going to put up with that. You know why? Because they're a respectable franchise. They're an original six franchise. They're not going to put up with crap like that. And ultimately, I understand why Quinn would be frustrated. I understand he doesn't like losing, Harm. But at the end of the day, you're a captain. You can't be doing that.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I fully empathize with Quinn's situation. I understand that for us on the outside, we probably don't know what it's like day in, day out to pull up to the rink for every practice, for every game, for 7 freaking seasons, knowing that you're probably going to lose on any given night, no matter how dominant you are individually. Just the frustration level of, I can deke past 2 guys, pass it off to a teammate, and odds are that the next offensive play or pass is going to be fumbled because we don't have any skill on our roster. Yep. I get that. If I was Quinn, I would be so frustrated. I would be so fed up with the situation. This has been a dysfunctional organization from top to bottom for the majority of his tenure here. Even think back to the JT PD drama. Who do you think was mediating all of that and dealing with all that BS as the captain of the team? That wears on a guy. I 100% get it and empathize. However, that clip is a bad look. There's no other way to put it, especially the way he peels off at the end and just curls up instead of having any. Like he saw, oh, there's 3 guys around the net. I guess I'll just curl back up. Yeah, it's reminiscent of the JT Miller controller disconnected moments, and you just can't have this be a pattern or trend, because regardless of whether this team is headed to the basement of the standings or not, it still matters that your teammates, what do you think is a teammate? If you're, I don't know, Linus Karlsson on the bench, or whoever, you're trying to steer things in the right direction. You're trying to battle your ass off as a team, still compete. You don't want to give up, right? Because that's bad for your culture. And you see your captain, your best player, the only guy that keeps you competitive in most games, he's starting to give up on plays. I don't love that.
Think about David Kampf. Like, Jacob, if you can play the clip again, think about David Kampf on that play. Like, just watch David Kampf, okay? Just watch David Kampf, who makes the original pass. He makes the bad pass in the neutral zone. Oh, no, it's not Kampf. Who is that made the pass? Sherwood. Besser. Someone with a right-handed stick. Anyways, but you see David Kampf sliding back, right? He's the guy that's hustling back. He literally has a moment where you can see him be like, oh, crap. Okay, the captain's not going back. I need to pick up this guy. So I'm going to hustle back. Like, just ISO cam on David Kampf. Watch him go back. He's just like, oh, shit. Okay, I need to take that passing lane away. I need to get there. Like, think about that. You're a new player to the team, Kampf, right? Like, you're a new player to the team. And it's similar to what you just said about, like, what if you're Linus Karlsson thinking this? And T. Rogers in the chat, fair comment, said, I'd rather not watch Kampf quads. But anyways, that's what I mean, right? Is just like, if you're anybody on that team, what are you thinking seeing that? And there's a lot of reaction to this in the chat. Surprisingly enough, I must say, there's like nobody doing the other side of it where the people I was arguing with. There's like nobody in the chat. Nobody in the chat. I was expecting some pushback. There's like nobody in the chat being like, well, cut him some slack, even though we're not like, we are trying to cut him some slack and say like, this is obviously a very frustrating situation. But Dylan in the chat said, you're getting paid over $7 million to play hockey. It doesn't matter if you're frustrated, be a professional. Rajcraft pointed out that it's a problem because it's coming from the captain. I
also don't like that. I was on Rinkwide after the Sharks game, and initially when I in real time seen the couple of plays where Quinn gave up on the power play and trying to get a loose puck or win it back in real time, it didn't look that bad. And so while I was on with JPad, I basically dismissed it. But then when I watched the plays back on Twitter, they looked worse than I thought. I don't like how little time there, like it's happened multiple times in a short span now, right? The San Jose game was just this past Friday. If this is a one-off isolated incident, that's fine. But I don't want to see this become a trend. Otherwise, it's not a good look on anyone.
I got no notes. I got nothing else to add, really.
You hear that, Quads? Do you hear that in the background? I think
No,
a
tell me.
tank is rolling into Vancouver. And we'll get to that with the stat of the day, which is
Whoa.
a presentation of Uber Eats. Uber Eats is enabling fans to maximize their fandom all season long with exclusive game day deals on the app. From game day eats to paper plates and napkins, if you're hosting, to all the ingredients you need to make your favorite game day dip before, during, and after the game, Uber Eats is assisting every fan's hockey experience all season long. Hashtag crave the stats. I'm officially on Team Tank. It's time. We've hit the 27 game mark, which is unofficially 1/3 of the NHL season. So we're past, it's early. We're at the 1/3 mark. And let's before we dive into what's next, let's just sum up where the Canucks are at right now. 10, 14, and 3, 30th place in the NHL standings. Just 3 regulation wins in their last 21 games. They haven't won back-to-back games since their very first road trip of the season, the tail end of it, in that Washington game where Filipino got hurt. So they haven't won back-to-back games since Filipino got injured. And it's time to forecast what's next for this team. How low can they realistically go? Is it plausible that they could stay 30th and finish bottom 5 in the standings, put themselves in position to land a top 5 pick? And it's important to project these things because you look back to, let's say, the 2022-23 season, a bad start doesn't always guarantee that. And I don't have to preach to Canucks fans about this. They know. They're used to all the winning streaks in the second half of the season from January onward.
Finish strong. You got to finish strong.
That 2022-23 season, they had the worst 16 game start to a Canucks campaign since the Mark Messier era. Worse than this one. They were also 30th in the NHL at the time. And I remember doing basically the same piece that I did today, right? Today I did a can the Canucks realistically tank for Gavin McKenna. Back then I did a can the Canucks realistically tank for Connor Bedard story. And I wrote in that piece, after diving into it, how I thought there were pretenders in the race for a variety of reasons. And then they go out and obviously hire Rick Tocchet midseason, go on that run, and end up picking 11th overall. This time, though, I think there's a far more realistic path to a bottom 5 finish than two or 3 years ago when we were last having that discussion. And I think the biggest tailwind, there are a few things I want to talk about in this conversation, but the most important one, the best tailwind this team has as far as an unintentional tank, right? They're not purposely tanking, is that there are a lack of truly bad teams this year. Right. In seasons past, you would have just god awful, miserable teams like the Sharks of years past, the Blackhawks, the Ducks before all their young players broke out. You'd also have just terrible campaigns from teams like the Senators, Blue Jackets, and Sabres mixed in. And these teams weren't just bad; they were historically awful.
And intentionally rebuilding teams.
Yes.
That's something you don't have this year.
You don't have that. And the clearest sign of that is right now, there are only 3 teams besides Vancouver with a points percentage in the standings below 500. This time last year, there were how many teams do you think were below 500 points percentage wise?
At this time last year?
Yeah, first week of December.
How many are there this year?
4 total, including the Canucks.
I'm going to say there was 6.
11.
What?
There were 11 teams that had a sub 500 points percentage in the first week of December. And you look at the fall off, a lot of the teams that we expected before this season to be contenders for a top 5 pick have gotten off to better than expected starts. It's not just a couple of them, it's a lot of them, right? The Seattle Kraken are in a playoff spot right now. The Boston Bruins, right? We all saw how terrible they were in the second half of last season, especially once they sold players off at the deadline. They're 15-13 for the season right now. The Blackhawks and Sharks are on the fringes of the Western Conference wildcard race. The Pittsburgh Penguins and Philadelphia Flyers are in a playoff spot. Now, I do expect that some of these teams are going to come back down to earth in the second half, especially if their goaltending regresses, right? Because you look at the underlying profile of Seattle and San Jose, especially, even a team like Boston, they get outplayed really badly at 5-on-5. They've been carried by some excellent finishing and just elite level goaltending. I don't know how sustainable that is, but the point is, even if they fade through the remainder of the season, they've already deposited a lot of points. So the threshold for a bottom 5 finish is easier to meet than in years past. The only teams that I look at as bottom 5 locks this year that I think are stronger contenders for Gavin McKenna, the Vancouver Canucks, are the Predators and the Flames, right? The Preds, they have the same terrible center depth and situation that the Canucks have. They don't have a Quinn Hughes level game breaker. They are probably going to sell a bunch of their vets at the deadline. And we also saw last year, they're one of the worst teams in the NHL. And then the Flames, right? They're the lowest scoring team in the NHL by a mile, right? Nazem Kadri is the only player on that team on pace for 45 or more points. And most interestingly, according to Tankathon, they have the most difficult strength of schedule for the remainder of the season. So they've actually had a pretty easy schedule up until this point. Nobody has a tougher schedule than the Calgary Flames the rest of the season. So those two teams are going to be difficult to out tank. But besides Nashville and Calgary, to me, the race to the bottom is completely wide open.
And with Nashville and Calgary specifically, speaking of teams that aren't intentionally tanking, you mentioned the Flames' strength of schedule. Is there a world where you think Dustin Wolf masks so many of their issues like he did last year? Like, do you think there's a chance that they bounce back because Wolf starts to play more like himself? Because that's the only kind of X factor I look at with the Flames.
Yeah, that's definitely plausible. He's had an .891 save percentage through 21 games. Now, part of that has been mitigated by Devin Cooley playing really well. So I imagine if Wolf plays better through the remainder of the season, I also expect Cooley to come back down to earth, so that'll partially offset it. Right now, Devin Cooley's got the 13th best goal saved above expected rating in the NHL. But you're right, Dustin Wolf. It's the thing with the Calgary Flames are they're bad, but they actually have a baseline level of defensive competence, right? They don't bleed just screaming high danger chances the way that, let's say, the Canucks do. And actually, if you look at their underlying metrics, they've held on just fine. It's not like they get badly outshot and outchanced most games. Wolf, I think, is the X factor, and you're 100% right there, where that's a realistic pathway for the Flames to maybe pick up some more points through the remainder of the season. But even with Calgary, they're probably gonna sell off on Rasmus Andersson and maybe even Nazem Kadri, who's their only productive forward. So the Flames, I still think, are going to be tough to catch. But you're right. If Wolf bounces back and plays the way that he does last year, then they could end up being a bit more competitive.
People are talking about taking on Darnell Nurse's contract in the chat, which is really funny because I had this conversation with Bag Milk very recently about, let's help out the Oilers and make them pay a king's ransom to get off the Darnell Nurse money. We'll bring it up in anyone else. So Harm, what I'm hearing here is that the path to a bottom 5 finish is very, very realistic for the Vancouver Canucks, and that is it's right there for them. Now, other than the Flames and Preds, like, who are you looking at as being a real deterrent to this this race to the bottom?
Well, that's the thing. It's difficult because I'm not a believer in Seattle, and I think they've been carried by great goaltending, but could they be last year's Calgary Flames, or they're just plucky, hardworking, low event, and they get the saves for all the season, and while they don't make the playoffs, they just hang around? Sure. The Blackhawks and Sharks are going to be interesting. I think the Blackhawks are a little bit more legit than the Sharks. The Sharks, it all comes down to Askarov, really, because Macklin Celebrini is going to keep cooking, right? We know
Mhm.
that he's going to do his thing. He and Will Smith are going to continue producing, but we know with Vancouver and Quinn Hughes, one superstar isn't enough to help you avoid a bottom five finish necessarily. And this is where the Sharks' underlying numbers are just, they're some of the worst in the league at 5-on-5. They actually have a -7 goal differential this season as well. They look like a team whose underlying profile is going to collapse at any moment, and it's really been Askarov playing out of his mind, being one of the best goaltenders in the league, that is keeping them afloat. They're a two-man team, really. Celebrini and Askarov, where after that, sure, they have a couple nice pieces beyond that, but the moment their goaltending potentially slips, they could start losing games in a hurry. And I'm not talking about a super dramatic collapse, but enough to where I could see them re-entering the conversation for a bottom five finish. I am going to be keeping my eyes on the Bruins as well. I know they're
Mm,
15-13 right now, but similar sort of deal to San Jose, where they're being carried by elite goaltending right now. And this is the tough part, right? Is you're asking me to guess which goalies are going to keep playing at elite level and which ones are going to fall off.
yeah.
Predicting goaltending is hard, but you've got a bunch of these teams that are outperforming their underlying process because they're finishing really well offensively and they're just getting out of this world of goaltending. Is there a scenario where that goaltending lasts for most of the season and these teams aren't in the bottom five conversation? Sure. But between the Kraken, the Bruins, the Sharks, and the Blackhawks, out of those four, I imagine one or two of those teams, especially one like San Jose, will likely slip and fall off a fair bit in the second half.
Chicago, Chicago's an interesting one to me. I have written down, I want to talk about their game against the Golden Knights last night. It was a phenomenal third period, phenomenal overtime, and shootout as well. We'll get the Bedard goal for sure. But with Chicago, do you count them as a team that's been propped up by goaltending? Spencer Knight's been great, but this was to me like this is Spencer Knight meeting his potential. Again, he's 24 years old. Like, I think this might just be who Spencer Knight is.
The issue is, I agree that Spencer Knight is a really talented goaltender. He leads the league right now in goals saved above expected. He's saving more than one extra goal per game relative to a league average goaltender, which is a pace where even if at the end of the season we look at Spencer Knight and go, he was a top three goaltender in the league, like he's on pace for what, like 50 or 60 goals saved above expected. Which, if you go back to last season, the like Connor Hellebuck wasn't even in that territory. Connor Hellebuck was 49 goals saved above expected, and then there was a colossal drop off to 31 goals saved above expected for the second goaltender. So the point being, even if Knight is elite for the remainder of the season, I don't think he can keep up this level of play where, yeah, his raw save percentage is, I think, 917. It doesn't jump off the page, but the Blackhawks give up a ton of looks, and it's the degree. It's like when a star player through the first month of the season is on pace for, I don't know, 140 points. You're like, yeah, you expect them to be at the end of the season still among the league leader in points, but probably not going to finish the season with 140 points. That's how I view Spencer Knight. And to be clear, out of the teams I mentioned, Seattle, Boston, San Jose, and Chicago, I think Chicago is the most legit of the bunch because
Hmm.
they're like, watching them play, I think they have more drivers than just Bedard. And I think their second line, for example, especially once Frank Nazar starts to pick things back up, he was really hot, then got hurt,
He
has struggled
looked
since
really good last night. Looked really good last night.
yeah. So I think Chicago's probably the most legit of those four teams I mentioned. And I actually wouldn't even be surprised if they, I don't know, become eight, mid to high 80s point team this year, maybe even close to 90 points. Like I don't think it's impossible that they stick around in this playoff race for the whole season, but there is still it's goaltending. Sometimes you never know, and as great as Spencer Knight has been, and as much as I think he's a legit good goaltender, you also have to remember that down the stretch last year with Chicago, he was an 896 in 15 games. So if he reverts to that kind of form, then yeah, there will be a fall off for the Blackhawks.
Someone in the chat said, so what you're saying, yeah, two Wolf brothers in the chat said, so what you're saying is one of those teams wins the lottery from 10th place and takes the pick from the Canucks. Got it. I did Tankathon while you were talking. And the first one I got, I kid you not, first spin I got, I closed the tab right away. Toronto got the number 1 pick. Boston got the number 2 pick, and
Dude,
the Canucks
you're
fell.
bad.
And
You're not allowed to touch.
Fell 2
You're
spots.
you're not allowed to touch the Tankathon
That was the craziest outcome. That was the craziest
never
outcome.
again. This like for the remainder of the season, if anyone's touching it, it's Jacob or it's me. That is cursed, man. At Toronto and Boston, that'd be very, very wild.
Very wild is one way to put it. Okay, yeah, we've got a lot of people asking questions that we'll get to in anyone else. Is there anything else you want to say to close us out of the day, to close out your great job, by the way, in the article and
Thank you,
what
man.
you just said as well? Anything else you want to say about the tank?
Yeah, a few quick points. First, I was curious and why I think a big reason why I think the Canucks can stay competitive in this tank race is because we've mentioned it before. Their defensive woes and just inability to control 5-on-5 play is like their underlying profile resembles a team that should stay near the bottom of the standings. For this season as a whole, they've controlled 43.9% of expected goals at 5-on-5, according to Evolving Hockey. And I went back since 2021-22, that season, there were 15 instances where a team has had an expected goal share below 46% through the first week of December, right? So just looking at underlying, the thing I was trying to figure out was, all right, the Canucks have been really badly outplayed at 5-on-5. Who are comps as far as that level of play through the first 1/3 of the season? And where did those teams ultimately end up finishing? 9 of those 15 teams, so 60% of them finished bottom 5 in the standings. Now, important caveat, I excluded teams that made a midseason coaching change because the Canucks aren't going to make a midseason coaching change. And I didn't want to include teams like the Canucks from 2022-23 when they fired Bruce, brought in Talk, and got the new head coaching bump. That's just not comparable to the Canucks situation. So right off the bat, their underlying profile indicates that it should stay this way. The two most unknowns, and this is why a bottom 5 finish is in play, but it's not yet guaranteed, is Thatcher Demko. If Thatcher Demko comes back,
people brought him up in the chat,
stays healthy for the remainder of the season, and operates at a high level, he's going to thrive regardless of how bad the defensive environment in front of him is, and he's single-handedly going to win you points. Might not even be wins, but just games where you're outshot, I don't know, 35-23.
Get to overtime.
He gets you to overtime. So that is like, if Demko comes back and stays healthy for the remainder of the season, plays at a high level, I could 100% see a world where the Canucks avoid a bottom 5 finish. But with Demko, who've brought this up countless times, not only does he have to come back, he has to prove he can stay healthy. And we're talking about a goaltender that's gotten injured 5 separate times in his last 37 appearances. It's the exact same conversation to a lesser degree with Filipino and what he would mean for salvaging their center depth situation, where, okay, maybe you come back, but can you actually stay healthy? So I'd say those two players' health status will have an impact, because if one or both of them come back, stay healthy, stay productive, that raises the Canucks floor 110%. The other ingredient, and this is where the Canucks, in my opinion, should be moving proactively early on selling guys like Kiefer Sherwood and some of their other pending UFAs, is their odds of landing a top 3 or top 5 pick spike if they move some of those players early. I asked the Athletics' Dom Lucian to run his projection model, just run through simulations with a couple of different scenarios. So scenario 1 was just, what if you have the Canucks sell Sherwood, Kane, Blueger, Forbert, right? You're pending UFAs. Their odds of landing a top 5 pick this year more than double. Oh. Now, the longer you wait, though, the longer you hold on to these guys, you're going to see diminishing upside to your, like, how much of a boost you get of bolstering your odds of a top 5 pick. The second scenario I asked was all your pending UFAs and, let's say, Connor Garland to just represent one veteran player who has term left. In that scenario, the Canucks' odds of a top 3 pick spiked to nearly 50%. So this is where, and this doesn't even touch the possibility. This doesn't even touch the possibility of what happens if Quinn Hughes comes to you and says, I'm not re-signing here, and you shop him ahead of the deadline. I out of curiosity, I didn't include this in the article because I didn't want people to freak out. But I did ask, Dom, what if you sub out Quinn Hughes for Simone Nemec as well? I did ask. Okay. And they are on paper, for the remainder of the season, they would become, like, by far the worst team in hockey. Like, by far the worst team in hockey if you're selling off Hughes and all the other players I mentioned. Yeah, then you're in Gavin McKenna territory. But that's where we're jumping a little bit too far ahead. I think what's realistic right now is just the bare minimum should be the pending UFAs, doing it earlier. Do it sooner rather than later, right? Don't wait for a guy like Kiefer Sherwood, who plays this aggressive physical style, to potentially get hurt. Get your draft pick, get your prospect now, worsen your roster so that you can amplify your odds of landing a top 5 pick where you're going to potentially get a star, right? It's not just about McKenna. There are 5 or 6 players at the top of this 2026 draft class that have star potential. And even if you want to turn things around sooner rather than later, even if you're Francesco Aquilini and you want playoff revenue as soon as possible, getting a star in the top 5 or 6 picks is that method. You're just delaying how long the uphill battle is going to be if you end up picking, I don't know, 9th overall this year instead of let's say 4th overall.
There's so much reaction to what you're saying. Yeah, we're sitting here just daydreaming about, if Quinn asks for a trade and they can be in Gavin McKenna territory. But you're right.
I'll also say this.
Yeah, go on.
Like, I saw some people saying, well, this organization never wants to tank. Ownership wants that typical late season bump, the winning streak that they're on, which Thomas Drance did a great mailbag article where he broke down some of that insight. But the issue is, you cannot want to tank, but this is potentially going to happen whether you want it to or not.
Yeah.
The players could try hard. Adam Foote, I mean, I expect the players to continue competing. No one's insinuating by any means that they're going to give up. They're not expecting the coaching staff to give up by any means. And even organizationally, I could buy that. Okay, maybe they don't want to have a terrible finish and sink as low as possible. But what can you do to control that? If you're bad, sometimes you're just bad. And what cards do the Canucks have left to play to give them a boost, right? You're not going to realistically fire Adam Foote. He's a first-year head coach. It's not even really his fault. He's not near the top of the list of reasons for why this Canucks team is in this position, right? They've got a million other issues ahead of Adam Foote right now. So it's not like the 2022-23 season where you can go, all right, we're going to fire Boudreau, bring in Tocchet, and that's going to give us a bump. What cards do you have left to play? This tank is coming, whether you want it to or not.
Just clip that, Jacob. Just that 2 seconds of Harmon talking and just right there. This tank is coming whether you want it to or not. Make a button. Can we get a button of that? Of just Harmon saying this tank is coming whether you want it to or not?
I
Can we?
absolutely can do that. By tomorrow, I can have that as a button. This like start of every show after they lose. The tank is coming whether you like it or not.
All right. Well done, Harm. Well done. Jacob, you had a button you wanted to show us.
Yes, while you guys were going, and the chat, Harm, loved your transition into this segment. I didn't have this ready at the time, but I have it now.
Music to my ears.
All right.
I heard that in downtown Vancouver this morning, actually.
Well done. Well done. All of you, everyone, even in the chat, we've got a lot of people. There's so many people now that are just saying, like, I'm not even gonna watch Canucks games, I'm just gonna watch your show. We appreciate that. Like that's the big worry, right? Is that people are gonna stop caring about the team and stop watching the games and not check out our show. But yeah, that actually means a lot. That people are so upset with the Canucks, but they're still gonna watch
a top 5 pick gives you hope.
Yeah.
Right? Where and this is applicable for future seasons as well. If you end up in a scenario where Quinn doesn't want to stay and you deal him, you can try and be competitive all you want. You can try and make some short-term signings to try and bolster your competitiveness. This team is 30th place right now with Quinn Hughes in the lineup. Even moving forward, you might not be able to as much as you want to be in the playoff hunt. Sometimes you can't control it. Sometimes you're just that bad. Just the same way that the Canucks were that bad in the early Benning years after the first year that they had with Willie Desjardins, where sometimes you just don't have enough talent and other teams in your division and conference have passed you. They have brighter futures. So that's honestly, like, to me, that's the most hopeful in a scenario. If Quinn Hughes decides he doesn't want to stay, that's probably your best hope as a Canucks fan, is that, okay, maybe the organization won't ever rebuild, but they can still unintentionally do the losing of the rebuilding team and still somehow land those top 5 picks where you can get the game breakers that give you the young core.
Yeah, but you gotta add too, and I'm not saying
course,
you're disagreeing. Yeah, I know you agree with me, but it's just a broader point that yes, you get the top 5 pick. It's important, but like, let's be honest, Quinn Hughes is basically a top 5 pick.
Oh yeah.
Elias Pettersson actually was the 5th overall pick. And you got great returns on that, but because that was all you did, you didn't have enough in the end, and I worry a little bit, and I know, in the end, Jannik Hansen turned into Linus Karlsson, right? It was no, it was the other way around. It was Burrows for Dahlin.
Yeah.
Hansen was for Goldobin. My point being, just being accidentally bad and then trading your UFAs isn't enough. Like, you have to do more. And I think that's an interesting crossroads that this team is at, that we can look back on and compare it to 2016-17 when they just moved Hansen, when they just moved Burrows, and everybody was thrilled. And then they get the high pick, and that's great. They got the high pick because they worsened their team that was already pretty bad. But then in the end, what are you left with? Again, not even to mention what they targeted in those trades of, like, we're going to go for young players rather than, because really, like, Goldobin, Dahlin, like, you're talking about, we talked about, trading for Lucas Reichel of 2 years ago. Like, that's basically what they did. Instead of taking a second or a third round pick for those guys, which has a chance to turn into something great, you went with 2 guys with very relatively low ceilings, and you were left with not much.
Yeah, you're 100% bang on. As Botch always said, it takes an army. However, even with the Canucks' bad process in the Jim Benning regime, there were still multiple points where they, through luck and some of those top picks panning out, where they could have been in a position to salvage things if they had just built it the right way, right? Where after the North Division year in the COVID campaign, the 56 game season, where they just were massive disappointments. Bottomed out. If they had just held on to 9th overall pick, you don't make that OEL trade, you hang on, you just let the bad contracts expire. I still think just that alone, I think you could have had a pathway with a new management, which they should have made a management change then and said, we're going to commit to 1 year of riding this pain out. And in that world, regardless of all the mismanagement of the Jim Benning regime, you would have been positioned to have a contention window, in my opinion.
You'd have Dylan Guenther. You'd have Dylan Guenther right now. Like, come on, what are we talking about? You're right. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely correct, Harm.
But it's just at every stage, even when Jim Rutherford took over, there was still a pathway to do like a quick 2-3 year retool around Hughes or around Pearson. And then they decided they wanted to accelerate sooner than that, which gave them the division winning year, but hasn't resulted in any long-term sustainability.
Yep. You're right. All right, let's get to anyone else. We've run really long with this segment. A lot of tank talk today. Let's get to anyone else. We actually got a lot in the chat, so we're going to try maybe run a little long today, but we'll try to get everything we can. Anyone else is a presentation of Pacific Toyota dealers and the Toyota Prius plug-in hybrid, a no-compromise approach to electric vehicles that offers the best of both worlds. You can drive up to 72 kilometers on battery alone, then seamlessly transition from electric mode to the gas engine for a combined range of 962 kilometers. There's no sacrifices when it comes to horsepower style with its sleek, low, and wide exterior and sophisticated interior. It's loaded with tech that's actually easy to use. You can plug in to recharge at home or at one of the over 2,000 public charging stations in BC alone. And now you can lease a 2025 Prius plug-in hybrid SE from $99 weekly at 3.49% APR for 64 months with $3,600 down. And it includes a $3,000 discount. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. All right, a couple super chats. We're going to get to them right off the... right off top. This one from Elfrin. He said, make the Canucks need to rebuild whether you like it or not button for Aquilini. Oh my gosh. That's okay. Thank you, Elfrin, for the donation to the BC Mental Health Foundation. $5 super chat. We appreciate it. We got another one here. This one's from Spat Silly. What are both your career goals / dreams in media? I'll go first. Cover a Stanley Cup winner. Or just a perennial contender. I think that'd be so fun. I've never got to do it. The 1 year was super fun. Like 2024 was so fun. Watch parties, so many people tuning in, people seeing us. Just like that was the most at least for me, that I was ever recognized just on the street, because I was popping in everybody's For You page on Instagram. All of our clips were hitting because everybody was tuning into the Canucks. Everyone wanted to know about the Canucks. So our clips that we're putting out at the same volume we were back then, just had so many more eyes on it. So that sustained is my dream, my career goal / dream in media.
So you're leaving your hopes and dreams in the hands of the Vancouver Canucks is what you're saying.
Well, I'll say this as well. There's been a little part of me that's just like, I don't like social media very much. Don't use social media very much. And like, not to put anything out there, but like, I don't know. I'm not going to put anything out there. I'm not going to talk out of turn. No, I don't know. What I'm saying is like, I love what I do, but like, there's also a part of me that's just like, what if I just did something completely different? You know what I mean?
I don't know what you mean. This is news to me.
Well, I just, what if I did something completely different, like completely outside of media and just went a totally different direction with my life? You know what I mean?
Oh, wow. The Canucks are that bad that they have you reconsidering your
chat.
No. It's not just about the Canucks. It's not just about the Canucks.
The chat.
Although it doesn't help.
Yeah. The chat's now going to come up with a list of future careers for quads. I can't wait to read the chat in about 30 seconds.
Yeah. Someone in the chat goes, Quads announcing his retirement tour. No. See, this is why I don't want to open the can of worms. It's just, I have a lot of interests that don't revolve around watching sports. And look, whatever I say, I'm going to sound like a privileged asshole because look, I know we've got it pretty good. Anyways, I'm not going to continue on this path. But I've had thoughts of like, what if I did something completely different? That's all. Like owning a hockey team. Oh, here we go. See, Marquitos in the chat said Quad's the carpenter. Yeah, I love building stuff. Anyways, but yeah, see, there's like actual carpenters listening to this that are just like, what the hell? I would kill to be talking about the Canucks every day. So, anyways, that's what I'm saying. I'm not gonna go down this road further. But I've definitely had the thought of like, what would I do after this?
Quad's the mechanic, Quad's the barber, Quad's the carpenter.
I wanted to be a barber for a long time. People, I can't read the name. Okay, yeah, I can't read the name, but it said, I'll take the interview for Quad's job. Anyways, oh yeah, pro Lego builder. Here we go. Yeah, here we go. I've already turned watching hockey into a job. I can turn building Lego into a job. Anyways,
you need.
How about you?
Tall people.
Say it again.
Basketball. You're gonna become a basketball reporter because all of them are tall.
No. See, that's the thing. I don't want to. I don't want to go do more. Let's go cover a sports team. I don't know. No, not really. What I want to do. I don't think. Well, if you know what I mean. I don't mean right now. Anyways, whatever. I'm talking myself in circles here. But yeah.
Yeah. No, that's cool, man. I didn't know that. I didn't know the Canucks had you that damn bad.
No, it's not just the Canucks. It doesn't help, but like I've definitely had the thought of like what else could I do? Like do you never sit down and think like what would I be doing if I wasn't doing this? Do you never think that?
Yeah, and it's a really terrifying thought because I would never want to do anything other than this.
Oh, okay. What's your answer? What would your other thing be?
Hell if I know. I mean I'd probably go back to school for something. But I don't know. Let's hope it ever gets to that point.
Jacob, I love this. See, this is the lines of what I'm thinking. Jacob says, I've thought of opening a food truck. That's what I mean. I would definitely start some sort of business. Like I've always been in kind of that entrepreneurial mind, but there's no way I would choose to enter that right now. Anyways. The chat's getting a little creative here. I said we want to read all these and then we got going down on one. Oh, but you didn't answer the original question. What's your career goal, dream in media?
That's an interesting question. I've never set a 5 or 10 year goal for myself, even when I started. My thought process has always been I'm going to just work as hard as I can to become the best reporter and writer I can, and just trust that opportunities will open up if I continue to level up my skills and my body of work, right? If you ask me when I first started 6 years ago of what do I see myself doing in 5 years, I didn't necessarily know what that progression was going to look like. I wouldn't have been able to predict to you, yeah, I'm going to be podcasting 5 days a week and doing a Canucks show on top of my writing, but that's an opportunity that opened up. Similarly, the expansion to doing a lot more national writing. I think I really enjoy the national angle, but again, I couldn't have predicted that 6 years ago. So
sure.
Yeah, I think for me, the next skill set I want to keep leveling up is I feel that I've already got a decent starting point as far as building relationships with people just around the league, right? As far as GMs, AGMs, scouts, that kind of thing, agents. I want to keep doubling down on that, expanding my skill set. I don't just want to be an analytics guy, and I think I've shown that in my writing that I can do more than that. But just being more well-rounded and just seeing what kind of opportunities that opens up.
That's awesome. And you know what? I must say, you talk about parts of the job you didn't know you'd like and be good at and all that sort of stuff and all your opportunities. I shouldn't say it's my favorite part, but one part that I've really enjoyed leveling up and getting better at is in my management role with the Nation Network. Like leading all of these other sites and helping the managing editors out who are, basically doing the job that I was doing at Canucks Army, the day-to-day just grind of blogging and writing about a team. I've really enjoyed the management side. I think that's why I'm leaning toward like, I'd open a food truck or I'd do something, because I really do love managing people. Like I love the relationships. I love all that. But yeah, anyway, that was really good. And yours kind of made me sound like an ass again. Because you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna level up my skills. I'm like, I just want the team to do better. I'm already the best there ever was. So, anyways, this is a really nice comment from Spatzilli. He said, "Harm, you impressed me very much, and I seek your analysis, and I think you should become a bigger name." I second that.
Thank you. That truly means a lot. That makes my day.
Actually, I don't second that. I take it all back. Because if you become a bigger name, you're not going to do this show with me anymore. So. Anyway, no, I'm just kidding. Obviously, yeah. Okay. Can we get to an actual question here? We had that one and we went down a Jacob Harmon can't read the chat. Put that last comment from Spatzilli in the private chat. That's funny. That's crazy. Anyways, going off topic here. Oh yeah, Joshua Phillip. There's another nice comment. He said, "I don't know if there's another show this authentic." Love it. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. Harmon just saw the comment I'm talking about. But all right. Anything else, Jacob, that we missed? We literally got to 2 in there. I'm sure there was like 100 in there that we were supposed to get to.
There were quite a few. Oh, something that I'm supposed to tell everybody. Nation Network actually has their own YouTube channel now. So that there's going to be a few shows that live on there, but also just in general, basic coverage from around the world of sports, hockey, baseball, basketball, hopefully some football as well. So it's in the description. I've been told to ask all of our listeners and watchers to go subscribe to the Nation Network YouTube channel. You'll see some Canucks Army faces on there from time to time, as well as other shows from around the network. So just got to plug the TNN YouTube channel, and that's it from me. I think.
Speaking of plugging stuff, watch party December 20th. Information coming soon. Save the date, folks. December 20th. 4 p.m. Boston, Vancouver. We're at Greta. Oh, I forgot to do the Greta ad read. Greta's a great spot for all games, home and away. Join us on the 20th. It's going to be a good time. There's the game day specials. We've got the audio of the game. It's always a fun time at our watch parties. You got $333 off select food items, $333 for select drinks, and more. You got the arcade, you got the bar and the street food menu. Make ready your spot to watch the next game. Okay, there was one I wanted to get to.
Oh, sorry, I do actually have one more thing.
Okay.
I put it in the chat earlier. So as a lot of you know, last week my computer crashed. I lost my hard drive. I've been in the process of trying to recover the files off of it, but I have not been able to get my Jacob Write It Down list yet. So if there's any of those things that you guys remember, I'm trying to rebuild the list. We've currently got 3 items on there. It was Pettersson over 80 or under 50 points.
I think I said 60.
60. Okay, so I'll fix that here. Over 80 or under 60. Askarov under 900 save percentage. Wallstedt higher than Askarov and Calder voting. You hit on the Mackenzie McEachran over 5 games, so that one's off the list. We already discussed that. But there was a bunch of other stuff as well.
Kraken making the playoffs.
That's right.
Kraken are this year's Flames. Medvedev's in the Hall of Fame. Medvedev wins 2 Vezinas.
Yes, Medvedev wins 2 Vezinas is on the list. I begrudgingly wrote that down the first time. As we just talked about the future here in anyone else, are we getting quads? Carpenter? Yeah, we're going to have to check in with Carpenter Quads as he's building a house in 10 years when Medvedev wins the second
Medvedev's
Vezina.
Third house in Vancouver.
There you go. Yeah. So yes, if you're in the chat and if you're not watching live, if you're listening to the audio pod and you're still at this point in the show, you're a hardcore, I'm sure. I'm just tweet at Quads or at Canucks Army account if you have any info would be graciously appreciated.
Ooh, okay, here we go. Let's finish on this one. This is an actual anyone else. It's from Unplugged in the chat. Who said anything else? If Hughes gets traded, should EP40 also get traded for a center like Barzal, Tage Thompson, or Kent Johnson? This is an interesting debate because it kind of goes back to the one we've had before about like how far into a rebuild do you go? We've talked about like, yeah, you probably want to keep a couple culture carriers. We've heard so many glowing reviews about Filip Hronek. He's played super well as well. You probably keep Filip Hronek. You probably keep a guy like Jake DeBrusk, Brock Besser. I don't think there's anybody that's sitting there and saying you got to trade Brock Besser. Like, I think Brock Besser is someone who helps your organization get back on track and helps bring in that next wave. I think Brock Besser is someone you keep around. I would also think about putting Pettersson in that conversation, also because I'm not sure how much trade value he has. Like, is that fair to say? You'd be going to him, you'd have to get him to waive his no move clause, and then you'd be trading him, and you'd be trading him at pretty low value. He's still young enough, I think, and look, he's having enough of an impact on games. Like, I know people don't want to hear it for whatever reason, but like, he's having enough of an impact on games right now where I'm not sitting there being like, you got to get rid of this guy, you got to get rid of this cancer in your locker room. It's not like that. He's putting in a ton of effort every game. He's putting up some points. Like, he was a point per game in November. Honestly, like, I know there's a segment of the fan base that just hates Pettersson. They've decided that he's the reason JT Miller's gone, and I'm going to hate him for the rest of his career. But if we're being fair here, Elias Pettersson is putting himself in that conversation of like guys you would keep around through a rebuild.
Yeah, he's not going to net you a massive haul. Like, plus just, I think there's value in when your prospects are coming up, unless you win number 1 picks and you get Schaefer, Celebrini, Bedard type difference makers, most of your young guys aren't going to be ready to step into a first line center role right away. And I think there is some risk of putting players further up the lineup than they're probably ready for when they're young players and just being totally exposed, right? If you trade away a player like Elias Pettersson, is Braden Coots, when he's a first year, second year player in the NHL, going to be thrust into playing way harder defensive assignments than he should be? You even think about when Bo Horvat came up, right? Bo Horvat was able to start his rookie year in a 4th line role. And that helped his progression because he spent that first year in the 4th line role. Then in that playoff series against Calgary, you saw, all right, he's starting to take a jump. And then he gradually was able to work his way up the lineup. Now, I'm not saying every player has to start on the 4th line or 3rd defense pair. But the point being, you want some level of insulation. You don't want a barren roster. And I think with Pettersson, you can trust him to take on a ton of defensive starts, tough matchups, and if he keeps competing the way he has been this season, leads by example, and plus he wouldn't net you a haul because he's got a pretty big contract, he's got the no move, and while his offense has started to rebound, he's not all the way back to being a 90 to 100 point player again. Yeah, I would lean toward keeping him for sure.
Mobs in the chat said if they rebuild and they get a couple years of top 5 picks, or even just one, really, one could be a 1C and Pettersson would be an elite 2C. Like, let's go down this dream scenario, okay? You get Gavin McKenna, you bring him in, and Gavin McKenna is your guy that you're like, okay, we're gonna insulate you to start, but then eventually Gavin McKenna becomes a guy that you're looking at and just saying like, yeah, okay, you can go. And I know he's not a center. Like, I know he's not going to be the 1C, but like your first line driver so that Pettersson's on the second line. And again, you bring up a couple guys, you go get a couple guys. And Pettersson gets to kind of take a bit of a step back and just be a really solid 2-way center. You're fine with him as a second line center.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there is a middle ground you're going to have to strike where, again, if Quinn Hughes is, I always feel like I have to throw this caveat out there. But if he's saying I'm gone, then and you decide that you have to sell off and build for the future, there is going to have to be a middle ground where you don't want to keep all your vets, right?
Yeah,
you're going to want to, you can't say, oh, I want to keep Pettersson, Hronek, DeBrusk, Besser, Marcus Pettersson, Connor Garland. Like, you can't keep all these guys. It just doesn't make sense. You have to capitalize on the value of some of them, but that's where you have to be. Yeah, you're gonna have to make decisions, right? Where, okay, maybe it's one of Philip Hronek or Marcus Pettersson that you trade, and the other you keep. Up front, maybe it's one of Garland, Besser, DeBrusk that you move.
Yeah. You're talking
you maybe take that kind of. Yeah. I mean, maybe not even necessarily mid-season, but even ahead to the summer.
Sure.
But the point being, you're gonna want to find a nice middle ground where it's not get rid of everyone, because you tear it down to the complete studs. And for me, it's about when your young guys come up, you at least want them to have a couple of quality veterans to learn from, that work hard, that want to be there. But you also don't want to go too far in the other direction of we're going to keep everybody and we're not going to sell off some of these valuable pieces for future assets that are going to help us down the road.
I am Don B with a great comment that we're going to use to close this out. He said, what are we even talking about? Bedard and Celebrini are going to be Canucks in a couple of years. Anyways, couldn't have said it better myself. All right. Anything else from either of you? You're good on
No,
feud surveys,
I think I'm
Jacob?
good.
I posted into the chat. We're at like 98, so it's
Okay.
not going to be in the audio pod description. We will get to 100 by the
Cool.
time we play tomorrow.
Well, we will be playing feud tomorrow, so yeah, it'll be good. It'll be nice. All right. Bet365 bet of the day. Let's go to the hardwood. All right.
First off, actually, Quads, you hear the news about Chris Paul?
Oh yeah.
No.
Your boy, he obviously he announced he was retiring at the end of the year. The
Didn't know
Clippers,
that.
the Clippers gave him like a big like, hey, we're kicking off the retirement tour, and then they just cut him today.
What?
Or yesterday, whenever it happened. Yeah, they apparently there was some feuding going on. The coaching staff and management didn't like his leadership style with other players. Apparently, he and the Clippers head coach Ty Lue hadn't spoken to each other in weeks, and then they just cut the future Hall of Famer.
It's a terrible look for the Clippers.
Yeah, that's wild.
That's your greatest player in franchise history.
Is
And
it?
you owe
I don't know
they owe all their draft picks to the Thunder too. And they're bad. So this is the most hopeless situation they could be in.
I thought Chris Paul played for the Celtics.
Well, he had bounced around, but he ended up back with the Clippers, where obviously he started with the New Orleans Hornets. Yeah,
I was gonna say, when was he?
I don't know. I don't know where you got
the
that
Rockets and the Suns, but
yeah, he started with the Hornets back in the day, then spent the bulk of his career with the Clippers, that played his best basketball there, and then bounced around all over the place. Went back to the Clippers for his retirement tour. And,
Damn,
Celtics legend Chris Paul.
No, seriously, I'm looking at his basketball reference. That's crazy. That is horrible treatment. Wow, that's wild. All right, well, I hope he signs with the Celtics. That'd be so funny if he just signs with the Celtics now that he got released. All right, let's go to the hardwood. Like I said, what did I say yesterday, Jacob? We gotta start writing down my bets.
You want to pick Chris Paul's Celtics?
No, they're not playing tonight. I already looked.
You bet on the Canucks yesterday.
Oh, that's right. All right, moving on. All right, let's go to. Oh, the Rockets. Oh no, sorry. I read minus 130. It's minus 1,300. So we're not going to take that. I feel pretty confident about that one, but we're not going to take it. We're going to go. Oh yeah, I saw this. Giannis Antetokounmpo is in trade rumors. Do you see this, Harm?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Your boy Giannis.
Yeah. So Johnny Boy is going to come out and silence the haters. Is that bum playing tonight, Jacob? Can you look it up if he's sitting out?
Is that bum playing?
If he's a little sore from his pregame nap, if he's going to play or not. I'm assuming he's going to play, and he's going to silence the haters tonight. Bucks are underdogs at home against the Detroit Pistons. Don't the Pistons suck? They had like 27 straight losses or something.
That was last year.
Like 3 years,
or 2 years ago.
That was 2 or 3 years ago.
They're first place in the East right now.
All right. Anyway,
you were wrong about that losing streak, but that was 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, Giannis is expected to be available Wednesday night.
Expected. Like, just is he gonna play or not? Like, my goodness. Okay, yeah, we'll see. We'll see how he feels when he ties his shoelaces. Might break a nail. Okay. Milwaukee Bucks money line plus 160. They're the underdogs tonight. We're hammering it. Because Johnny's gonna play. I know he's gonna play. He'd play on crutches. I'm just kidding. No, he wouldn't. But yeah, hoping he plays tonight. Plus 160. You can get Bucks money line over on Bet365. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app and get it on the game. Use the code NATION at Bet365. Must be 19 plus to play. If you choose to play, please play responsibly. My next career, basketball betting. Just imagine all of this in a blog. Just like, is this guy hurt tonight? Bum. No, he's not playing. Okay, whatever. All right. Anyways, people in the chat telling me to stick to hockey.
Hey, you're what, 2-1 in your basketball bets?
That's right. We're above 500, baby. We're above 500. No rebuild here. I'll tell you that much. All right, we'll close it out there. For my co-host Harmon Dial and tech producer Jacob Bazar, my name is Dave Wajelli. Thanks so much for the episode of Canucks Conversation.
Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with us, folks.